Welcome back to the Yoga Chat. I'm your host, Montana.
I'm your host, May.
And today we have a really special guest, per usual, the one and only Patrick Price. So, Patrick's been practicing yoga since July of 2020. He's originally from Altoona, Pennsylvania, but moved to Pittsburgh in 2010 for school. And he's been firmly planted here ever since. He and May are both Pitt alumni, I should say.
Go to
And
Pitt.
yeah, H2P. I pretended like I went there. And a fun fact about Patrick is that he's a huge sneakerhead and he has over 50 pairs between running and leisure and two that lace themselves like Back to the Future. That's insane. You have two pairs of shoes that lace themselves?
They are cool, yeah. Nike doesn't make them anymore, so they must not have sold that well to people outside of me, but they are pretty cool. Allison laughed when I said I told her 50 and she was like only 50, but
So that's a soft 50.
that's why I said over. Yeah.
How does that work? How do they tie themselves?
There's a little motor on the inside. I don't know. I'll bring a pair. I'll
You
charge them
have
up.
to.
I'll charge them and I'll bring them tomorrow to class and we can take a video after and we
Charge
can
my
post.
shoes.
Yeah, right.
That's amazing. That's so good. All right. Well, so we know Patrick from just being around the fitness scene in Pittsburgh. Um, of course, we know him from Yoga Six South Hills, but also Mecca and Stride, and I'm sure all the other places that you like to work out at. So, oh, before we dive in, Patrick, by chance, do you know your sun, moon, and or rising signs?
Yes, I had to look it up.
I had a feeling I was like, I know he's going to look this up
Right.
for us.
So I knew, obviously, shout out to all the other Leos out there. I'm always told
Oh,
that I fit for that, but I looked it up and it said I was Leo, Scorpio, Leo.
okay.
So,
So Leo sun, Scorpio moon or Scorpio rising? Can't remember.
moon.
Scorpio moon and Leo rising.
That's some
Yes.
heavy shit.
Wow, yeah. Leos are great. Most of my like closest longtime friends are Leos. So that tracks. I just thought of four off the top of my head. Um, and then a Scorpio moon. May and I are both Scorpio risings. But yeah, we don't really I tried to talk about these things with Callie last week and I was like, I re-listened to it. I don't always re-listen to the episodes. And I was like, I don't know what the fuck I'm saying, and I don't know if any of it's right. I was so
I mean,
confident.
who really knows what's right though?
Yeah.
Unless a true astrologer is listening, anybody listening will be like, wow, Montana knows a whole lot about astrology.
Yeah, I was confident, that's for sure.
Yeah, they'll
Fake
just
it till
believe
you
you.
make it. My friend
Exactly.
Erin's listening, like, no, Montana, none of that's right. Um, okay, cool. Well, now that we know we have a Leo in the house, which is fun, Patrick, will you just share your background and where you come from, and a little bit about what it is that got you to where you are now and where you are now? Because um, I know a little bit about you, but not a whole lot. So I'm excited to hear your story and share it with our listeners.
Yeah, so right from the center of Pennsylvania in Altoona, grew up pretty normal. I've got two brothers. She's laughing already. I've got two siblings, a brother and a sister. We all went to Catholic school from start to finish, and everyone's a Pitt alum, from the kids at least. So yeah, I went to Pitt. My original plan was physics, and that fizzled out after the first physics exam. Was not going to happen for me. So we switched to computers. I've always been pretty good with everything computers, and I did information science with a specialization in networks and security, which will lead to where I am now, but it didn't really do much for a while. My first couple jobs, all in Pittsburgh, were just kind of random IT jobs with some kind of outside support companies, and then with CMU actually for a little bit. I was going to go back to school there, but that seemed daunting. Uh, and yeah, school was never my strongest suit. I've never been good at sitting and learning at a desk. I kind of
Me
like to
neither.
learn on the fly. So, kind of working has done well for me, and I ended up at GNC a little over 7 years ago now. So I've been there for quite a while, and I do information security there. So a lot with phishing and training in GNC, and then keeping compliance with financial and credit cards and other fun things like that. But I've got more calls about that later, so we don't have to get too deep into GNC. But yeah, so my kind of fitness journey, growing up, I was always one of the bigger kids in my grade. I played football, but I was offensive line. And I stayed, I did a bunch of like yo-yo dieting through school. And after, kind of a year being out of school, I was getting fitted for my buddy was getting married, and I was getting fitted for a suit. And it just kind of really took me back how big I was then. So it finally clicked. Um, the first year that I worked out, I went to it was either Anytime Fitness or Planet Fitness in Edgewood. Twice a day I would go before work and after and do cardio and do like a full cycle, and it was a lot, and it worked. So after about a year, I had lost 65, 70 pounds, and then had moved to the Strip and was going to Gold's Gym back when it was in Market Square, and I started working with an actual trainer there, and that really clicked for me, doing some specialized workouts. And so I think kind of at the end of it, I went from around 400 pounds. I didn't get on the scale at the very end of it, but from there I got down to the lowest ever was 212, but I'm a little higher than that now. Um, but yeah, so shout out to Gabe. I don't think he does PT anymore, but um, that really worked. And so that led me to running eventually. Was never something, being the the fat kid, that I liked growing up. The mile in gym class was always daunting. Um, and it just started being slowly something that I added to the end of my workouts. And living in the Strip, kind of North Shore, I was in the Hines Lofts, and there's a really nice trail there, and it was like a mile and a half from there to in between PNC and Hines and back. And I started just doing that sporadically outside, and then one thing led to another, and I did a couple 5Ks, and those turned into 10Ks and 10 miles, and ha nothing more than a full marathon. I'm never going to get much crazier, but
Oh, nothing more
Well,
than a full marathon.
yeah, look
That's
at all the
all.
medals
there's
behind him.
yes, I was trying to figure out where I should go,
Hell
but
yeah. So how
it's
many
my life.
how many halves and how many fulls have you done at this point?
Fulls, I've done 9. Halves, probably like 12 or 13, mostly
No more than
around
9
Pittsburgh.
full marathons. No biggie.
It's
Just another
crazy.
day.
It's like such a drastic turn, like around like what am I trying to say? A drastic like flip of the switch.
A
Um,
full 180, yeah.
yeah, is it as like, I mean, of course, I was gonna say like, is it as straightforward as you just described it? And of course it never is, but like, was it really like, did you get fitted for that suit and it was just like in that moment you were like, all right, guns ablazing, like I'm making a drastic change. And obviously it wasn't easy, but you did it from what I understand. So what was that transition like going from like not working out twice a day to working out twice a day?
At first it was a lot, but I got back into it, I think, pretty quickly. And I think at least, I was always big, but I was still kind of active. And, I would golf, and I would still work out sporadically, like kind of the old football workout, and do my bench press and squats and all that. So there was still a little bit there, but I mean, once I got into it, and I think too, you see a couple people that are always there at when I was going at first, it was like 4 a.m. I would go, I'd get home because I was still living in Oakland. So I would go to Edgewood, back to Oakland, back to downtown at the time, and then all the way back to Edgewood right after. So it was just a lot, and it just kind of, yeah, it was just, I kind of forced myself. And then
Yeah.
once I got into it, it just kind of became second nature. So then when I moved to the strip, run, I would walk to Gold's in the morning, and then I worked in the strip, so I would walk back and I would just stop at work on my way home. It was just a nice little loop. And then once I got into running, it turned into running in the mornings, and I don't know when to stop sometimes.
I think that that's like not something to take lightly. Like it's so like the determination that it takes to be like, I'm gonna start doing this, even though it's really fucking hard, and I'm just gonna do it until it becomes like a part of my routine and almost like a it flips so much that it's like now, like you said, like you probably have a harder time not doing it. But like that's really, really hard to get to the point where it's like, oh, now it's harder for me to say I'm not going to work out or I'm not going to run. Whereas, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months ago, it was the opposite. So, like, I hope you're really proud of yourself because that's really fucking hard.
Yeah, no.
Speaking from my own
She knows
experience.
I'm proud of myself.
Good.
She lets me know.
Good. Um, yeah, when was your first yoga class? When did that come into play?
My first yoga class was actually, I always like telling this story because it was a fun mistake. Um, I had been going to Mecca for like a month before COVID hit, and then everything obviously shut down. And so once they reopened, a lot of the ones to start were the boot camp class, which was something that I was way more familiar with. And that was always 5:45, and I would either do that or body lab at 6:30. And I had to go somewhere for something and switched in the 5:45 thinking it was boot camp, but it was M Flex, which is essentially like the sculpt where it's 10 minutes of yoga at the start and then a boot camp flow and then a cool down at the end. And I remember walking in and it was Kristen Boyer, who also goes to Y6 now. She was teaching it and she said grab a mat, and I was like, what do we need a mat for?
Surprise.
So yeah, and no, it was just something I never really thought of doing. It was pretty much run or lift for me. Um, and I just liked it. I felt good, and I very distinctly remember it was raining too, and the room it was in had like a metal roof, and hearing the rain kind of hitting the roof at the end of it was a very relaxing experience. I started working a much different headspace than normal.
So would you say that you enjoyed your first yoga class?
Yeah, I think a couple hundred or thousand later, I'd say so.
Yeah, well, I think
So
that
how
you're
did
the
you
first person to say that you liked on our podcast to say that you actually liked your first yoga class.
in fairness, there was only like 20 minutes of yoga and the rest was
Yes.
slinging those heavy
True,
weights. It was a
If
good
it
true,
was
transition.
if
true.
it was a full power class to start, I don't know that I would have
Yeah,
necessarily been back.
fair.
So how did you jump from M-Flex, which is like a hit workout sandwiched between a yoga warm up and a cool down? How did you decide after that? Like, when did you make your way into your first 60-minute class where you were like, I'm going to do this on purpose now?
Luckily, I think it was just a couple weeks later they were opening the strip location and she was teaching a full yoga class there. So just kind of rolled right into it. I figured I would take her yoga class, and Mecca didn't have as many options, and I think they've got a few more now, especially in the strip, but um and they've got a full dedicated yoga room in Lebo now that I haven't gotten to try too often, but I lost my train of thought where I was going with that.
Well, I think that you also lucked out because Kristen's such a good teacher that
Yeah.
and like you guys are friends now. Did you know her
Yes.
before?
No, I met
Okay,
her through Mecca, yeah, and then
yeah,
through,
so like it's hard. We say so often that like if you go to a yoga class and you don't enjoy it, it might just not be that the type of yoga for you or the yoga teacher for you. So like you also lucked out in the sense that the first yoga class you took was not only Well, I think that Kristen probably had a lot to do with it because since you vibed with her in the MFlex, you were like, okay, I'll try the 60-minute thing.
Yeah.
60-minute thing. And yeah, she's an awesome teacher. And obviously you guys are friends now. So that's awesome that it like opened up that whole like a whole nother avenue of health and wellness for you, which is awesome.
Yeah. And then once Yoga 6 opened up, I think I wasn't right at the start. I think it was like a month or two after the open, but I fell in love with the hot yoga. I love being there right in front of the mirror. If anyone ever sees the bald guy up front, right in the center, that's me. Um,
I like being in the front row too because I don't look at anyone else except for myself when
yeah.
I'm in the front row. That's why I like it. So was Yoga 6 your first hot yoga class experience?
Yes. Yeah.
What was that like?
It was definitely not what I expected. I remember looking at my hands afterwards and they were just pruny.
Fruity.
Um, but I really liked it. And I think especially I like having the set flow as an option and something that I know is happening something that's consistent and that I can get better and keep, maybe not get better, but improve and change a little bit each time. Um, I like it. And then yeah, I just kind of I didn't think I was going to like the hot at first because I do sweat a lot. You can also, if you see the big puddle in the front of the class, that's probably me. Um, but yeah, I mean once I got used to it the first couple times, it was not much different than the end of a run.
Yeah. How would you say yoga has like supported your other avenues, like especially running? Do you feel a difference in your body at all or like your stamina or your mind set at that?
I think my mindset when I'm running is different than when I'm doing yoga. And I think, and I've told this to Allison before too, I think a big thing that I really like in yoga is just kind of shutting my brain off and being kind of told what to do. And I'm not thinking of anything outside of the room. I always love to tell people that I've got my smartwatch, but it doesn't do anything but track my sleep and tell me my heart rate. Um, just something to try to shut off because I feel like I'm always getting emails and things like that. And it's tough when I'm running because I feel like trying to look at my watch or thinking of what my heart rate's at. I think there's a lot more going on in my head when I'm running.
Yeah, I agree. I try to like zone out, but
It's
then I'm
tough.
like thinking, yeah, I'm like, I wonder how far I've gone. Don't look, don't look, don't look, don't look, I have to look. Oh my God, it's only been a quarter of a mile.
Yeah. But physically though, I mean, it's just having a dedicated place, I think, to just slowly stretch. And that's really, what it is. It's just a full stretch. And especially, I mean, I love a good restore class and almost falling asleep by the end of it. Um, and yeah, I definitely before yoga never stretched enough. And I can definitely tell, especially in like my hip flexors running, that it's been way easier on me.
Yeah, that makes sense. So what's your like what's a do you have a consistent workout or routine or is it kind of sporadic week by week?
I am all over the place, I feel like. And especially because I've got the full memberships for Stride and Y6. So I try to hit a couple of those each week. And extra dedicated, love your class on Wednesday mornings. Um, and I try to get to one of Bridget's each week. Um, but I try to hit everything and everyone does everything a little bit different too. So it's nice to try to get a full flavor.
Yeah, totally. Another fun fact that I just thought of, Patrick, you go down as I don't think it's the only at this point because it's like we're going on 4 years, but the first person that like the Yoga Six South Hills Instagram account reached out to on Instagram
Oh,
and it
really?
worked. And it worked. Like like whoever reached out to you, you're like, yeah, I'll come in and take a class. And then you bought a membership when you're like, oh, Patrick's the one person on Instagram that we reached out to, and it actually
That's
worked.
funny.
Here it is.
We slid in his DMs and we were successful.
It's
Yeah,
funny.
totally.
Allison had actually won like a free week trial from someone that you guys must have been partnering with, and she was just struggling to pick it up from her. And I was like trying to push it off for a minute, and I was like, "Oh, I've got a free week coming. Just give me a minute." And then I was like, "Well, I'll just go and try one."
Oh, that's funny. So I have a question. So because obviously when you go into a yoga studio in, you know, I'll say Pittsburgh, but most, places uh here in the West, um, it's predominantly women. And so if you could like give advice to a guy's guy like yourself, I don't actually know if you're a guy's guy, but you're like a big manly dude to me. If you could give advice to like a guy's guy, like if you were talking to Matt, my husband, who used to do yoga and then stopped,
That's a
what
man.
yeah, that's yeah, what do you mean?
Guy's guy.
Would you like how would you not I don't want to use the word convince, but that keeps being the word that's coming to mind. Like how would you what advice would you give to a guy that's like, I go to the gym and I lift weights? Like why would you say that doing yoga is beneficial in addition to all the other options that men have for, I mean that humans have, but that men have to work out and move their bodies?
I mean, I don't know if it would resonate with like Mr. Manly Man, but I think the big thing is just, you got to try different things. Um, Maybe it would resonate with the manly man. Arnold had a big thing in his documentary about, you got to shock the system, you got to shock the muscles so that they don't know what's coming. If they don't know yoga's coming, it might kick your ass. I did a
Yeah.
bar class once and I thought I was dying afterwards. And
Same.
you wouldn't think it, but it can get you.
I that's very Leo of you, and I love that about you that you like to try different things because I'm the same way. It's just it, and I watched the Arnold documentary too. I forgot that he said that you got to shock the system. It's the same thing with like diet and eating, right? My mom's a health and wellness coach, and she guides people through like lifestyle changes. And at the beginning of the lifestyle, before you like go into kick it into high gear, she has people do what she calls loading. And so for 2 days, you eat 5,000 calories a day for 2 days. Yeah, wild. And then, and it essentially does that. It shocks your system so that that way your metabolism, you can start getting into fat burning mode instead of muscle burning mode or calorie burning mode. Um, but it's, yeah, that just came to mind because it's so similar. And that, I think that's why I like to swap back and forth between different types of exercises. Like I never stick to just, of course, yoga is a constant for me, but I love trying different things. And sometimes I'll try it once and sometimes I'll stick with it for 6 months and then let it go. But like not only is it fun for my mind because I get bored easily, but it's a good reminder that it's actually good for your body too. And then it's probably connecting your like neuromuscular like pathways. Um, and it's just helping everything on all levels and all scales. Can you guys hear Levi, by the way?
No.
Okay, good, because he's been barking this whole time. And I was like, if they could hear him, they'll tell me. But I just had to ask. I had to make sure.
Can we
Go
real
ahead.
quick go back to Patrick taking a bar class because bar
Yeah.
is so brutal. And when you were, if you were to observe a bar class, just watch it from the outside, you would be like, oh, easy. This is nothing.
Yeah.
When you're in it, it is, I think that it might be the sorest I've ever been in my entire life is after taking a bar class. So, where did you go and what caused you to go? And did you like ever go back?
Uh, it was a couples class for Valentine's Day, I think. I want to say
Okay.
You're a good
north,
husband.
yeah, somewhere North Hills. Yeah.
Okay.
Allison just wanted to like wipe the floor with me. It was nothing for her. And I was like struggling to walk around Trader Joe's afterwards.
Yep.
Have you ever tried solid core?
No.
Okay, I'm gonna force you.
Same idea.
You gotta come. It's
All right, we'll do it.
arguably I would say it's harder than bar. It's different. but
It's
like,
different, but the same intensity of like you can't sit on the toilet for a day
yes.
afterward.
And like
It's
if
that.
you look at it, you're like, what are these people doing? They're so weak. And then
Right.
you try and you're like, oh my fucking God.
So a
Yeah.
day that I'm not going into the office then.
Yeah, I mean, like even every single time I'll finish and like I'll go to pick up my water bottle and I have to like pick it up with two hands.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like
Uh,
somebody's wringing out your muscles from the inside. Like someone's reaching into your body and squeezing your muscles and then letting you walk away and you're like,
yeah.
it's something you'll probably never experience before or
I
again.
I describe it also as like it makes my muscles itch. It's so weird. I'm inside my muscles like so deep. I'm like, ah, I'm itchy. And like you're barely sweating, kind of like bar.
Yeah, when you bring Patrick to Solid Core, let me know because I want to come because I love
Yes.
watching a man in bar and Pilates, especially a guy that like runs marathons and lifts heavy weights because it's one of those things where like you can be so strong and it's just a different kind of strong. Like you said, it shocks your body. You can lift you could squat 400 pounds, whatever. I don't even know how much a lot of squatting is, but
Me
you can
neither.
squat a lot of weight and you can go to a bar or Pilates class and you will be humbled. Humbled. I mean, anybody could be humbled by a bar or Pilates class, but I want to be there for that. So let me know.
We'll plan it. We'll
We can
definitely
go to
plan it.
Chloe's class.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Um, this is a random question, but I just thought of it. So when you run long distances, do you listen to music? Yes or no?
Sometimes
Mm.
if I'm by myself, I'll generally start, but sometimes I just kind of get tired of having my headphones in. Um, I think it started a lot of marathons. I'll pull them out anymore, especially because there's so much going on and there's so much noise around.
Hmm.
But the first time I was running one in Colombia and forgot to charge my headphones, so they died right away, and I had to take them out. And then from there, I just kind of don't necessarily need it as much. I do start each one with headphones because I start with the Rocky song, but
Hell yeah. I don't always use headphones because I love to listen to music, but I hate the feeling of them in my ears.
Mhm.
And I recently just lost my like what are they called? The wireless headphones. I had like Beats or something. I think I left them on an airplane, and so I haven't had them. So I've been running without them, and it's been fine, especially if I run with Denim, my puppy, because we essentially like talk and hang out the whole time. But yesterday, I was like, fuck it. You know what? I'm putting in my old wiry headphones and I'm just gonna carry my phone. And that's how I think I ran so fast. And I was like, see, music it might not make a difference mentally because I can like push through that, but physically, I literally like took like a minute off every mile. It was
I
crazy.
think it helps when you have music to kind of pace and like
Yes.
when you have the beats per minute and it gives you something extra to focus on, maybe.
Yeah. I totally felt that. I was like, there's no denying that like I'm running to the beat, therefore like I'm not going to slow down because I'm not going to let myself not run to the beat.
Yep.
Whereas if I didn't have the music, like that can like ebb and flow the like BPMs essentially. Um, so you were going to run in Hilton Head. So Patrick
hmm
was planning on running the full in Hilton Head. When was it supposed to be?
Um, Not this Sunday, but the next one.
And it got canceled.
Yeah, no, it's a
Why?
bummer. They had some issues with permits, I guess.
Oh. Was that going to be
Um,
like on the beach? Like in the sand?
No, it looked like the
Okay.
route looks like it was like on the highway.
Would that be a nightmare, like to run a marathon on sand? Would that be something you would be open to trying, or is that immediately like a hard no?
Um, I mean, immediately no. I'll never say immediately no, but I would definitely need somewhere to practice.
Right.
Um, it would
which
probably be a
doesn't
lot,
exist
but
here.
there
It's
was
true.
when we did the Athens marathon, there was a guy in our group who had done 100 barefoot marathons, so
A
it
hundred?
it might have been more than that. It probably was a lot.
Wait, does
That's
barefoot
crazy.
mean like on pavement barefoot or like in
Uh-huh.
soft?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. What
Yeah.
is that just like a bragging thing? Like I'm such a beast that I do this without fucking shoes on?
I guess maybe part of it. I think part of it's supposed to be like more correct form too.
Oh, wow.
Kind of like back to like our ancestors way back that didn't have shoes and learned how to walk. But
You know what's so
I
funny?
like
Like
my Nikes, so
Yeah.
well, yeah. People are superheroes. Like we talk about superheroes in movies and like cartoons, but there are humans that exist on the planet that I think are literally superheroes, including that guy. Honestly, including anyone who's ever ran a marathon, because I
I
feel like
know.
when you do it after so long, you forget what a big deal it is, but it really is a big deal. Like that is it's an incredibly physically and more so mentally challenging thing to accomplish. So like after you do so many, you forget, but it's amazing. And that guy without shoes, 100 marathons without shoes on, like who is he and where did he come from? Like I want to know his ancestry.com DNA results. Like what made you this person? And I know it's probably just will and consistency, but also there's something in his DNA that I guarantee makes him a superhero. Something.
no, for sure.
I mean, yeah, like you said, like anyone that runs a marathon, it's just now that I know what it feels like to run a half marathon and I know what it feels like to lead up like the training for it. It's like it's crazy because when you see the people at the finish line, it's just like anything that like you can't describe, you just have to experience it yourself or you don't, right?
Yeah.
But it's like you see people afterward, like whether it's pictures or videos or you're actually there, and it like looks like this small fleet that they've just like accomplished because it's
Yeah,
like it's
thank you.
over, right? And they're just like pretty much like walking normally and drinking an IPA or whatever. If you're in Pittsburgh, you're having a Eaton Park cookie. And it's like
And an icy light mango.
it's crazy because it's like it's insane what these people just did. And now they're just like, thanks for the Yingling. Let's
Yeah.
fucking go. Let's train
Yeah.
for next year.
Time
And
to go to
like,
work tomorrow.
yeah, it's like I don't even know how to describe it. I'm just so in awe of it. Because also when I went and got new tennis shoes last week, which is oh my God, I can't believe that I ran two halves with like not the proper shoes because I can already feel just such a difference and not in necessarily the running, but in the recovery. Because after a mile, it's like you're just running. It just feels like you're running. It doesn't matter what shoes you have on. I shouldn't say that. If you're barefoot or you have like sandals on, I'm sure it's different. But I was wearing tennis shoes versus better tennis shoes. But the recovery is drastically different. And when I was buying the shoes, the guy helping me out at Fleet Feet, his name was Matt. Shout out Matt. He was like, I didn't realize that the Pittsburgh half or the Pittsburgh Marathon was so close. Like I'm ready to sign up for that. I need to sign up for it. I need to start training. And I was like, oh yeah. I was like, why did I sign up again? I don't know. I'm a glutton for punishment. And I was like, but I'm excited to like feel accountable and stuff. And he goes, yeah, I'm excited for it to be over. And I like said, and I thought in my head, I'm like, runners always say that. They always say, I can't wait for it to be over. And I don't understand, like, why are you doing it if you can't wait for it to be over? That's not how, like, quote unquote, yogis think, right? And then he said, and I can't remember exactly like how our conversation went, but he said something along the lines of like, can't wait for it to be over. And then immediately followed up with like, I just feel so accomplished once I've done it. And I was like, "Ugh," and it like clicked for the first time. I was like, yeah, we all want it to be over because the feeling you get when it's over is like undeniable. It's like I've never felt more proud. I grew up putting myself through like really rigorous shit as a dancer and nothing compares to what it's like to run 13.1 miles, much less double that. And like the pride that you feel after like that sense of accomplishment is like I'm like that's why these runners are doing it except maybe Kaja's a fucking freak but but most people that I know are like I can't
Love you,
wait for it to be
Kaja.
yeah, I love you so much. She knows I love her. I send her after every run, I send her my stats and she's like, who the fuck even are you? Look at you go. And I'm like, I know. Keep hyping me up, run coach from Florida. But yeah, it really is a whole different sense of accomplishment to like put yourself through that willingly. I just have so much respect for runners. It's crazy. There's no other movement like it that is body and mind fuckery all at the same time.
And it's similar to, it's kind of like everyone is there for each other. And when you're running, there's so many people. I've cramped up so many times doing a full marathon, and everyone going by is, you got this, keep moving. And you do this. Again, Colombian, I pulled my headphones off and people were screaming at me and things that I couldn't understand. But, it was all positive. It's all good vibes, and everyone's trying to push everyone to get over the finish line at the end.
Yeah, it gives me chills. It's so true. It reminded me a lot of like a festival, like an EDM
Mhm.
festival, which I used to frequent. Um, I haven't been in a few years, and I think I'm retired from those, unfortunately, for better or for worse. But it was very similar, in a weird way, and like it was just it was like a big 30,000 people community for, a few hours. And yeah, it was wild. I was like, these are going to be my new festivals, marathons. And afterward, I'm going to have a burger instead of feeling hungover. My right knee might not bend, but at least my
There's
soul,
other pains, maybe not a hangover, but
yeah,
you're
different.
not going to be at 100% the next day.
No, 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 no. Um, all right, cool. Well, uh, I feel like it's time to ask the question we ask anyone, unless May, you have something specific you want to ask about.
No, I'm excited to hear Patrick's
Patrick's
answer to this.
answer? Yeah. So, Patrick, do you think yoga can change the world? Yes or no, and why?
I think it can, and I think some other people have had a similar answer, but maybe not in like the broader sense of like, you know, one person like Putin's not going to do a couple chaturangas and pull everyone out of Ukraine. But I think over time, for me, it's made me healthier. It's made me especially like I think mindfulness is something really big and missing for a lot of people, and something that, yoga has really improved for me in being able to just kind of sit back and take a few deep breaths. And I think if people would do that more often, I think in general it would be a positive change.
Amen.
Mm.
Right?
Like your mention of Putin, that cracked me up. There was a master trainer in
Oh,
Yoga
yeah.
6, and I'm sure you've heard this cue in a class, in a yoga class. Teachers sometimes say, like, in tree pose, don't put your foot on your knee to protect your knee. And this master trainer would always be like, who are we protecting our knee from? The Russians?
Yeah, like
So,
squeeze your abdominals to protect your low spine. From who? The Russians? He would
Putin.
say it like every time. Yeah. Yeah.
Shout
We're
out
not
Putin. I
protecting
hope you're
our
not listening.
I'm gonna
stack your
think of
knee
that the
on
next
top.
time it comes up in a class too.
Yeah.
I'll bring it up.
Yeah, and you can tell them after, well, depending on who they are, actually, don't.
Yeah.
Be like, I heard from these yoga teachers, Montana and May, that it's actually not dangerous to do that, and that you're making me think of the Russians. Yeah, don't
Next
tell them
time you
that.
say draw your navel to your spine, just think about protecting your low back from the Russians.
Yeah,
And then you're going to suck that belly right in.
LOL. All right, cool. Well, Patrick, thank you so much for your time. This has been awesome getting to chat with you. We're really excited to share your story in this episode with our listeners. Um, and can you tell everyone where to find you on the interweb?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram. I'm somewhere on Yoga Six's Instagram. You can look for Patrick_R, and I'll be the only one that pops up.
Patrick R. Really fun stats on group fitness and running. I like to look at them. So, um, all right, cool. Well, thank you so much for your time, and thanks everyone for listening. And we will catch you next time. And Patrick, I'll see you on Friday morning. Well, actually, I'll see you tomorrow, but
Yes.
we've got a Yoga Six and Stride unofficial run club too. So if you're listening to this, and you'd like to be a part of our run club, hit us up. We're meeting this Friday, which actually this is going to be airing in 2 weeks. So when this airs, that run will have
We'll
already
meet on
have
another
happened.
Too
Friday.
late.
Yeah,
We'll
The
exactly.
make
Russians
another
have
Friday
gotten them already.
happen.
We will. You know what? To full circle this, it's funny because right now while we're recording, that Friday is ahead of me and it's going to be the longest one I've done this training season. So it is daunting. But when this comes out, I'm going to be like, ha ha ha, I already did that. And now I'm running further than that. Ha ha ha. All right, cool. Well, thank you, Patrick, and thank you, May. And y'all have a great rest of your day.
You too. See
Bye.
you
Thank
guys.
you.
Bye.